Is this like very confusing? Toby?
I have a question about something you said earlier.
Sure.
When you were talking about how initially a man might be excited for children, but eventually a separation and a distance develops, even in or would you say that would happen even, say, if a man wants to have children? And it doesn't just happen, but, this is something him and his partner, they thought about it, he wants to have children. Would you say that separation still comes up?
When you watch the first Matrix, there is a scene where he's being taught combat training. In other words, a software is injected in the back of his head, okay, and then all of a sudden his eyes open while in the chair. He says, "I know Kung Fu." Okay. And then all of a sudden Morpheus, looks at him and says, "Show me." And the next scene is that it's the combat training, and Morpheus beats him up. Okay? Until the very last moment in that scene. And what you have is, you may know a lot of things, you may fantasize a lot of things, but they have never been tested in real time. And that is the problem. As a man, you can have all these ridiculous narratives. I'm going to be a great father, I want to be a father. Okay? But when fatherhood hits you, when time is taken away, and that also depends on how much of a staunch individual you have been, how ambitious you have been. If, for example, let's say firefighting has been your passion ever since you were born. That's all the books you read about, how to fight fire. And whenever you go out with a woman or we go out with your friends, that's all you talk about. Okay? You dream about fighting fire and whatever it may involve. Now, you have spent about 85% of your brain energy on fighting fire. A woman comes in. You're a human being, you have desires. Sure, you want to be with her. Sure, you want to have a family. But remember, for the past 30 years, all you have been thinking and feeling about has been fighting fire. A woman comes into your life. Okay? That's like you taking an exit into a rest area environment. You sit there with this woman, you have coffee, you can get married, you have a great ceremony, you have children. But remember your first passion, fighting fire, which has consumed you for the past 35 years. Now you have to share yourself. You know how difficult it is to remove 85% of this passion inside you? Get rid of this and now put 85% of you here. You're not going to do that easily, man. Okay. Now, the less of an individual you are, the less ambitious you are, the better of a father you're going to be. I mean, that's the trick. All men are not jerks. Ambitious men are jerks. All women are not jerks. Ambitious women. And not ambitious because you want to have a great family. It's a selfish desire. I want to be the CEO. I mean, look. If you pay close attention to the way academia is moving now, when it comes to administrative positions, they're being occupied by women. Now, I know you're new to, college system and UC and CSU system. Eventually, you'll be more educated. But if you move into the position of being a dean or a vice chancellor or a chancellor, you have to spend about 10 to 12 hours of your day taking care of Laney College. There are lots of things to do. All these emails are going to come your way. You have to attend meetings. If you're spending, you want to be a chancellor because you are ambitious. Now, it may have started because you want to provide for your family, but you have no idea how it feels when people email you 20 times a day. You're like the Pope, man. Your ego gets inflated. You know, you begin to assume that your value is no longer $10, it's like a $1,500 value. That you want your wife to speak to you a certain way. You want your kids to speak to you a certain way. And that creates fragmentation, division in your life, personal life. Okay? So the less ambitious you are, the better of a family person you make. The more selfish and ambitious you are, the more awful of a companion you'll be. You know, Jesus would have never made a good husband. Never. If you read Malcolm X's biography, if you know anything about his life, he made an awful husband. Martin Luther King, awful husband. Mahatma Gandhi, awful husband. Che Guevara, awful husband. All these revolutionary heroes, because their vision in life is no longer just limited to my wife and my kids, my parents. You know, consider the Gospel of, the Gospel of John or the Gospel of Luke, where Jesus on the cross looks at his mother and says, "Woman, behold your son." Come on, man, you're dying. Say, "Mom, I'm sorry for being such an idiot. I should have washed a couple of dishes when I was younger." No, because nothing for him is personal anymore. You know? Now, I don't know if you know who Cristiano Ronaldo is, or Lionel Messi. These are like superstars, man. Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, whoever your pick is. I mean, these people are in the battlefield for about 10, 15 hours a day. Okay, so they see you in a coffee shop, they fall in love with you. You really think you can possess their emotions? No. I mean, you may kind of play with them a little bit. They may be distracted on the tennis court for a few days because you haven't returned their call, but eventually they'll go back being the person that they've always been. Ambitions being number one tennis player in the world. So imagine you're one of those ambitious pricks, and now you get married, and now you have a couple of children. What are you going to do? You're going to give up your passion? You think you're going to give up your passion without resentment? Without blaming your wife, blaming your kids? How much time they're taking from your life, from you? How much of your resources are being depleted? You know, if any of you go home and keep talking philosophy to your parents, to your friends, you think they're going to be happy about that? You think if you go home and tell your mom or your dad or your husband, your wife, "So you love me, I wonder how. Do you love me Eros? Do you love me Philo? Do you love me Agape?" Oh, how long do you think that relationship is going to survive? You know, and the more they make you feel bad about what you're doing and how you've changed, slowly you're being changed, the more you're going to come to class and hate me for it. And somehow you have to resolve that conflict. And I assure you, Toby, you're not going to give them up and follow Socrates. It will never happen. You will always sabotage wisdom for security, because in wisdom you're going through this dark maze and its future is unknown to you, and there are no guarantees. And why the hell would you want to do that? You know, Rebecca, she has been on the move for a long time. It's only now that it's dawning on her. I'm getting a little older. I need to settle down, go back to school, you know, make a life for myself. You know, I don't always need to like stretch out my arm for $10 from this guy and $5 from that person, you know, and that's what she's moving towards. You know, all that hippie thinking about free-spirited life, forget that. It's finished. I'm sorry.
You're right.
Rebecca, I am right. And it's not because I'm trying to be a jerk or, you know, be egotistical, none of that stuff. It's just that's the way life works. You know, all the ways that parents discipline their kids. It's because, you know, Paula knows. Her 7-year-old eventually needs to sit in a college classroom, and if he throws a few temper tantrums that are unsavory, he'll just get kicked out. What are you going to do as an immigrant with no education? In and out, Home Depot. There are great jobs, honorable positions to have in life, but you'll have a very difficult time supporting a family. It's doable, but with a lot of frustration. For those of you who find yourself in a very solitary environment, you need to understand that, for the most part, you are the way you are because of social forces. You know, for the longest time, as human beings, you know, you only needed the man to go out to get a job and come home. That's it. Now you need two people. That means parents are forced to spend less time with their kids, especially if you have children in their formative years, 0 to about 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. The less they see their parents, the more individuals they'll become. The less social skills they'll have. And the less receptive they can be to people like Socrates. Because they have had to, forced to, kind of figure things out on their own. And it's very difficult for them to all of a sudden, at the age of 20 or 25, get rid of those qualities that have been cultivated inside them and all of a sudden become submissive. It doesn't work. And that's why it's very, very, very difficult to do philosophy the right way with Westerners, because it is the land of individualism. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think it's good for you guys to know that, you know, if you come from a broken environment, you have every right to desire, to demand from yourself and others a romantic relationship. But as long as you know you come from a foundation that's been cracked, shattered to 1,000 pieces, it's just not going to last. Or if it is, it's going to be profoundly problematic in many ways. As long as you know that, then, you know, you'll try to look for ways to kind of not have the relationship fall into pieces. At least you'll try. Anyone else? Yeah, Rebecca, go ahead. Okay, now, so we spoke about the call. Sorry, yeah, Kendra?
You were talking about this move
Up?
from Eros to Philo.
Uh-huh.
And you were talking about feminine emotions being passive, being able to receive, and masculine emotions. When you get something, you have some.
Sure, so Socrates becomes masculine and Kendra becomes feminine. Okay.
And that's in Eros?
Well, that's in all of them, but it's also in Eros, okay? You know, romantic love is not very difficult. You spend 2 hours, 2 days with someone if if it's founded on a good amount of attraction. You spend a few minutes with someone, you'll think about them. That's not difficult. And the more time you spend, the more, gelling is going to be. You're just going to get glued together. The problem with Eros is that there comes a point where Socrates says, I no longer want you to feel, I want you to think. And the moment you start thinking, your history comes into play. See, in Eros, because the emotions are so intense, you don't really care about gains or losses of your physical life. All right, so I'll walk away from my marriage. I mean, that's the work of the emotions. And you and I have seen people do this all the time. They get consumed by a moment, they're intense, they kind of devour you, and then the thinking comes about and the regret and the shame and all that stuff. There comes a point in a relationship with Socrates that says, listen, I know you love me, I can see that, I don't care for that anymore. Think, The problem with thinking, what he's saying is, now you need to see the world through my eyes. And that's a very, very difficult place to be, because you come to a place where you say, are you telling me I can no longer trust my own judgments? And Socrates says, yes, you're an idiot. Are you telling me can I go to Trader Joe's right now? No. Well, I just want milk. It's bad for you. And all of a sudden you realize you have no longer any ability to trust yourself in the most simplest of things that you want to do. And it's a devastating place to be. Because when you feel this way, remember, you're not living in a cave, Kendra. You have a husband who says, Kendra, you're 30. Make your own decision. Your parents will make you feel bad. So you have all these social forces attacking you, saying, you're a grown woman. You're mature. You're independent. You're an American. Think for yourself. Socrates says, Kendra, you don't know how to think. And it's really, really difficult to, look, all of us have been sat by our parents. And what is it that your parents want you to do? They want you to see education through their eyes. And what does that mean? Your father says, listen, I was like you. Okay? I worked at Home Depot for about 40 years. All because I didn't want to go to school. The tragedy is you're 20. Your father is 70. Your father, when he sits you down and talks to you, what he's saying, you have to see things through my eyes, but you must also experience time through my eyes, youth through my eyes, emotions through my eyes, resources through my eyes, and it's too much for a 20-year-old. It'll never, ever, ever happen. It's very, very difficult to see through the eyes of your philosopher teacher. I'm not talking about Laney College, people like Socrates. Because, I think this saying in the Gospels, no prophet is ever welcome in his own town. It is so true. I mean, you have had glimpses, all of us in this class, of your own wisdom. Every single one of us in this class. It's not that Rebecca at the age of 29 has found herself at Laney College. She knew at certain moments she should stay with school at the age of 18. I mean, that's a great amount of wisdom inside you. What do? You crucify it. Why? Because there are pleasures to be had in the iron, in the bronze and the silver. They all create fantasies that you're exempt from the laws of gravity. And what can a parent do? They can't chain you down. They eventually say, okay, well, go. It's much easier for an American parent, for example, to watch their kids go away and ruin themselves. Because at the age of 18, the moment in this culture you have a child, the moment a woman gets pregnant and goes through labor and the kid comes out, both the man and the woman run to the church and say, please God, let this kid turn 18 tomorrow so he can leave. That's not the way it works in Africa. That's not the way it works in India. That's not the way it works in China. That's not the way it works in the Middle East. And in some ways, I think in modern times, it's much better to be American because the world has become much more hostile, much more uncertain. There are no longer any traditions or rituals that kind of give people meaning. So it's good. The moment you have a child and, it's a biological factor to some extent, you kind of say, okay, well, my kid is eventually going to be a loser. As a parent, you have no choice if you really don't want to kind of damage yourself too much. What the hell are you going to do? You're swimming in alcohol and drugs. Everybody comes to class high. On the weekend they get high. They sit and watch porn. Many of them are addicted to porn. What do you do with these people? You can't do much. As a parent, you can just sit back and just say, okay, let me just have a heart attack and die before watching this entire thing unfold. Anyways, anyone else? This is awful. David? Matthew?
Today's my 2 weeks sober. So
Good for you. Congratulations. Get rid of all the phone numbers. for your friends. Trash them. Change it for another. Sarah, anything?
I think I emailed you about this. The question was, how would you do my gaslighting?
Gas, lighting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. For an English class. Well, when you looked it up in the dictionary, what did it say?
Psychologically manipulating someone into doubting their reality.
Psychologically manipulating someone into doubting their reality. You think Jesus did that? Was he a gaslighter? Did Moses do that? How about Malcolm X? I mean, isn't that part of evolution? If you have something good to offer to someone and they are resisting it, I mean, the term gaslighting these days, it's kind of about men abusing women for the most part, or kind of forcing someone to do something that they don't really want to do, or be someone they don't really want to be. But the truth is, I mean, when you do something wrong, right, your parents hit you, they sit you down, they're praying that you begin to doubt your decision-making abilities so you can trust them more. The only trick is this, I think, Sarah. You can be gas-litted, if it's a word. You can be gas-litted by Snoop Dogg, Wiz Khalifa, okay, Eminem, or you can be gas-litted by Angela Davis or Jesus Christ. As a Catholic, you read the Gospels, I'm sure. So now the question is, well, how do you want to be gas-litted? You want to be manipulated, abused, harassed by which category of people? In the world of, let's say, Snoop or Kanye, okay, he'll give you power, a little madness, okay, money, popularity, the negative, poisonous, toxic ways. In the world of Jesus Christ, he takes everything away from you. He forces you to look at men in a very dark and gloomy and sad way. Money, you just need enough to eat. You don't really need a house. You can just wander about, He gives you nothing. He gives you the kingdom of gold. I'm not quite sure where that is, how you can find it. So there's a good amount of confusion, and there's this eternal journey you have to be on. It's profoundly rewarding to sit and think, to sit and observe, take notes, evolve spiritually and intellectually and emotionally, to not care for the pathetic, infantile things that most of us in this class care about. It's great. So the question again is, you want to be around which gas litter? I think there's a good chance that because Snoop Dogg will gaslight you in a way where your senses will be inspired, where you can see and touch and smell and hear and taste. It's very tactile. I mean, you go to his house, he lives in a mansion. You want that for yourself. He gives you a ride in his Rolls Royce. Well, you want that for yourself. Okay? When you walk around, his neck is always this way because he's got all this gold chain around. You like your neck to be like this. Especially as a woman, you love jewelry. So, I know you don't like any other stuff, but it's just, okay? So, he shows you things that you enjoy. Now you tell him, I'm going to school studying philosophy. What is he going to do? Oh, so you're here to tell me that I'm wrong about my lifestyle. So he'll do whatever he can to lit your gases. Okay? And once your gases have been lit, you'll slowly just move towards the passions of Snoop Dogg. The other is Jesus Christ. Okay? And if you want to follow Jesus Christ, if you want him to light your gases, you're going to tell him, so where am I going? What do I need to give up? He says, well, go sell everything you have and follow me. What do you mean everything? What everything? Well, first you have to sell the physical stuff. Get rid of your backpack, okay? Get rid of the money. Is that the only thing? Oh, no. Get rid of the fact that you come from an Asian heritage, all the ideas, all the rituals, get rid of all that. Get rid of the physical and the non-physical stuff, yeah. And then what? Follow me. Where are you going? I don't know, just follow me. Are you kidding? I don't want to be lit at gasly like that. Can you lit my gases in a different way? And he says, well, what kind of way? Give me more direction. Well, are we going to Nazareth? Are we going to Judah? Where are we going? I'm moved by the Spirit. What the fuck is that? As a human being, I've always wanted security. You're taking everything away from me. You have found your cross, Jesus Christ. Now carry it. What are you going to do? You're going to knock on Snoop's door. I beg you to light my gas. And he says, yes, I will light your gas. That's what gaslighting is. We have no choice but to be manipulated. It's impossible not to be. The questions that you've asked in this class, you don't ask them in your math class, a geography class. This class manipulates you into asking these questions. All of life is about manipulation. Have you seen that movie, which one, with Katharine Hepburn? Where she speaks badly? On My Fair Lady. It's really a bet. Okay, and or like the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. It's a woman who just doesn't pronounce words the right way, so these two old farts grab her and they try to teach her how to speak properly. And she does, and she's very attractive. Eventually a prince from Bel Air says, marry me, and she says yes, but then she says no because she has fallen in love with the guy who's taught her, who's 50 years older than she is. The point I'm trying to make, Sarah, is be manipulated, be harassed, be abused by the right forces. The difficulty is you have no idea which one they are. You will take Socrates' abuse as painful and Snoop Dogg's abuse as pleasurable. And you will pursue Snoop for about 50 years until you realize it means nothing. That's why you need to see the world through the eyes of Socrates. It's a shortcut. You see Kendra there? And all the other people that once in a while walk in this class? I manipulate them. I have lit their gases. We're going to study business. Are you kidding me? You're an idiot. I just want to get my AA. AA in the 21st century? That's like getting a diploma in first grade. Bachelor's, master's, if be PhD. And then, I do my best to get them a job here or there. She teaches. And these days, if you become like a part-time faculty, part-time teacher, you make anywhere from $60 to about $120 an hour. It's great. You walk into the class, you play with ideas. What more do you want in life? So, anyone else? Luke? Jamie. David. Anything? Logan. Rebecca. Matthew. Paula.
So, when we're speaking about emotions being masculine and feminine, and now when it's easier for a feminine person because it's passive to be filled with Socrates faster. But then we went back to how women, because of the love, they can't really surpass the Eros because it's harder to detach themselves from their emotions. So initially, women are easier to be filled, but we have a harder time moving past Eros to get to Philo to get to agape, right?
Right.
So it's easier for that to happen, or it's easier for a masculine person or a person with masculine emotions to surpass that kind of.
Imagine you run into a Socrates. 10 minutes into just having a chat with him, you feel a little funny, okay? That you sense something about him, the agape part. You can't really call it that just yet because you're unfamiliar, okay? You're not versed in that kind of a lifestyle. You have this attraction for him. And then as you spend more and more time with him, because you know that he frequents at a certain coffee shop on Monday through Friday from 9 to about 11. And you go there and you sit there. And initially you sit there not because you really want to understand anything that he's saying. Okay? That's a bonus. All you want to do is just be around him. Okay? You like the way he or she talks. You like the way he or she has body movements. Okay? You just enjoy his presence in a certain ridiculous way. Then you get to a place, remember, you become curious, then interested, okay? Then you become infatuated, then you become upset, and it's full-blown love. Now, that is a trick. Now, remember, the more love you have inside you for Socrates, the more you're able to allow him to abuse you, to gaslight you, to manipulate you. He'll say to you, I'll call you at 11. You'll be by your phone at 10:45. 11 comes and goes, 12 comes and goes, 1, 2, 3. You don't get a call that day. And you're filled with anger and hatred. And then your phone rings at like 4:30 in the morning. You look, it says Socrates on the screen. Oh, hi. How you doing? He says, I'm really sorry about yesterday. Oh, don't worry about it. It was nothing. I know you were busy. I mean, you're a busy man. After all, you're Socrates. You were talking to God. Who am I? I mean, nobody. But thank you for calling me and waking me up. I was having this dream about you. But we'll talk about that later, right? Now, if you don't have much love for this man, like the guy says, I'll call you at 5, he doesn't, and you just delete his number, period. The more love you have, the more abuse you're able to take. Now, it means the following. You sit at his shop, and then you begin to smile a little. He looks at you and says, the hell are you doing? Nothing. What's that stupid grin on your face? Is there anything funny out there? No. So why are you grinning? Why are you smiling? Why are you laughing? Now, if anybody says that to you, stranger, you would slap him, call the cops on him. You would call your boyfriend and have him beat him up. But because of your great love for Socrates, you're going to just become stone-faced. Do you think there is anything funny about life? Haven't you heard that all of life is suffering? Now, what he does is that he punishes you for every mistake you make. But unlike all the other relationships you're in, you walk away from those people who have committed abuse towards you. But when it comes to Socrates, because of your great love, you take his abuse. You want to react, but you can't. Love baptizes you. Remember the saying in the Gospels? He who sits next to me sits next to fire. Everything about your ego, okay, turns into ash. You have no reactions towards Socrates except to have him correct you physically, emotionally, and intellectually. You just need to pray that there'll come a time where Socrates has abused you enough, where he says, Paula, I got nothing else to give you. Go away. When you attach yourself to Socrates, you detach yourself from the entire world. Which means that when you go back into the world, no one can abuse you because you can't find any attachment to the people of the world. You know why? Because you keep looking for the qualities that lived in Socrates. You want them in your husband. You want them in your father. You want them in your friends, but none have it. And because no one has those qualities, it's very difficult for you to become intimately involved with them. Okay? Now, don't love the wrong people. Because when they abuse you, the conclusion of that abuse is trauma and therapy and medication for you. Socrates, very, very different story.